Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. Today we're going to be continuing on with this week's theme of random, where we check out random entries on the request spreadsheet. Today we're going to be looking at, as you could probably guess from the video title, Blind Guardians Somewhere Far Beyond. Unfortunately, the only official version of this I could find was the 2007 remaster. I'm not sure if that is good or bad. I know remasters are kind of, they're kind of hit and miss, and there's definitely opinions about whether they're good or not. But to get a non-remastered, I would have had to use just a random YouTube channel, and audio quality is always kind of, it's always kind of a crapshoot when we do this. I like to prefer official sources. So this one comes from Blind Guardian's official YouTube channel. So that's the one we're going to check out today. All right, let's hit it. Let's figure out what this one's all about. Ooh. Dude, we're just booking. Snare on every beat. Nice harmonies there. Nice little switch to halftime to let the listeners catch their breath a little bit. The bells are very nice. Little embellishment there. Very punk sort of riff here. Can't say I was expecting that. There's not a lot of harmony in here, but when it comes in, it punches. I think it's just because of that contrast. That bass is springy. Dude is just yelling. Nice bit of a retardando there at the end. Gave the ending a nice little bit of flair. Alright, so Blind Guardian, Somewhere Far Beyond. So this was cool because it combined a lot of aspects that this was super nostalgic for me in a way that I've never heard, and I don't know how you can be nostalgic for something you've never heard before, but this song does it very well. I don't know when this came out. Obviously, it's a 2007 remaster. I would place this song, as far as my knowledge goes, somewhere in the late 80s, early 90s. It has a lot of that hair metal flair. The singer specifically, to me, it sounds like 80s hair metal type of singing. Maybe more so, maybe less hair. I don't know. Is Dio hair metal? To me, it is, because I just kind of group it in with a lot of the other metal of that time. But the singer reminds me a lot of Dio, or I can't think of the dude. I don't know, but just like those late 80s singers kind of moving into the early 90s where they're practically screaming, but it's more of like a falsetto scream, and you're just getting this very high pitched, almost like a belt with a little bit of grit to it. And I just kind of associate that with the time frame. It also has a lot of thrashy elements to it. The playing is ridiculously fast. Like I was saying, we're getting snares on every beat. Everything is tremolo picked at 30-second notes, maybe 16th notes. It's a pretty fast tempo, so I can't really. It's one of those. They're playing fast. So the guitars are playing fast, drums are playing fast. Um, but the thing is even though I'm like, okay, so this would be like 80s thrash, and like I really want to just pigeonhole it there. There's so much punk to this. All right. Some of the chord progressions are punky. Some of the melodic lines are punky. The way that they phrase, they do a lot of phrasings in threes when they're moving more melodically rather than just holding down a single note. A lot of this is done with a pedal tone, and they're playing probably an open string. That would be the easiest way to go about it. And you're getting a really fast open string. You get doo 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 doo, and then maybe you get like a little run like doo 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 doo, and they come back down to the pedal note. But when they actually decide to play something a little bit more melodic, um, to me it has a real punk feel because we end up with a lot of triplets. Not necessarily triplets in itself, but three notes. So instead of changing every four, you get dooga 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 dooga. You change every three notes, and that's just a very punk thing to do, and it shows up too many times here for it to be a coincidence. Punk is also played fast, um, so it kind of goes along with the thrashy elements that are going on here. I think the main difference is melodic composition. The few times that we actually see melody, like guitar solos, that is what tends to kind of separate thrash from punk. Um, but it's just weird to see the marriage here. Like, there's definitely thrash metal elements, but there's also punk rock elements in the composition, which is just really cool. I don't know if there's a connection there. Like I said, they're both faster playing music. They're both a little bit more on the simpler side of composition as far as melodic writing. Like I said, this uses a lot of pedal notes. Um, so there are similarities between punk and thrash, and maybe there's a connection there. Maybe they are a lot more connected at the beginning than they are now, and this is just kind of, what thrash sounded like. Maybe thrash had punk roots, maybe punk had thrash roots. I don't know, but to me, it's really interesting hearing them together because for me, this type of music I associate with stuff like Megadeth and Metallica and Anthrax, maybe. I wasn't super into this kind of music. But my parents kind of this was their era, so I heard a lot of stuff that they listened to, um, and but yeah, so I associate this with more of the metal side. I would never say that Metallica's thrashier songs had punk elements to them, but this one certainly does. So that's a really cool thing right there. The vocals are just far and away amazing. I have a soft nostalgic part of me for that sort of belting grittiness. Like I mentioned earlier, Dio does it. A lot of like I said, the 80s hair bands kind of do it. It reminds me of my youth. Like I said, listening to the hair metal that my mom and my dad listened to. So I I like it, even though I don't fully enjoy it. It's not what I would typically go to listen to. I do have a soft spot for it. It's just nostalgic for me. But then they layer it. They got tons of harmonies in here. They're all beautiful. I love them all. They're so good. And the dude actually brings it down. All right, he has a non-belt that he does more. I would say what was more of his comfortable range, maybe more of his speaking tone. And he kind of alternates between the two, so that's kind of cool. One time he actually does, straight up alternate. He does 4 bars in this one, and then 4 bars in the belt, and then four bars coming back down, and then 4 bars in the belt. And so that was pretty cool. I don't know if there's some storytelling there. Judging by the picture, there's definitely some fantasy or folk elements here. The storyline seemed to be fantasy esque. Um, so, like I said, it could be a story-based reason for the two voices. I don't know. Going back to the punk though, you can't have punk without bagpipes. To me, like bagpipes and punk are just so intertwined, especially when you start looking at bands in the ilk of Dropkick Murphys. Like that's just kind of bagpipes are such a punk sound to me, and they brought those in here. So it's just like the punk and thrash connection here is so strong. And it's really cool, like I said, just to see the line being blurred. You can't really tell if this is punk or thrash, and it's just kind of both, and they both sit together very well. It's a very, very nice blending little blur. Um, but again, like I said, I don't know if the two were heavily connected back at some time in music history, or if these guys just decided to put the two together and call that a day, and that's phenomenal. Either way, really cool stuff. Like I said, just to kind of see some history happening. Um, the music though, it's it's a jam, right? If you enjoy just bobbing your head to some easy to listen to music, as far as thrash can be easy to listen to, I understand it's probably not for everybody. But like I said, having grown up on stuff like this, Metallica's first album, and even some of the tracks in their second and third album, they still retain some of the thrashiness. I'm just used to hearing this fast, just tremendously fast playing. Um, so to me, it's kind of easier listening, but I could see how some people might not be into it. But for me, this is a pretty simple jam. There's nothing really complex going on in the music. There's a couple of halftime sections, but technically, I would not, if I was composing it, I would not change the tempo. I would just double the length of all the notes. Basically, we were doing tremolo picking on, say, 16th notes. Now we're going to work with quarters and eighth notes. Just make the notes longer. It creates the feeling of having slowed down without actually changing the tempo. And since it does feel exactly half the time, that's the way to do it. You just cut all your note lengths in half. So there's no tempo thing going on. There's no time signature thing going on. And like I said, the music, other than the speed, is relatively simple. If we changed a lot of the tremolo picking just to whole notes and holding them out, it's very simple melody. A lot of the complexity comes from the speed of it. So there's not really a lot going on there musically to talk about. There are some pretty interesting chordal ideas going on in. Remember the section I told you where you had the lower singing and then the belting, and they were kind of alternating. Um, it was very interesting to me that the lower singing had a bit more upliftingness to the chords, and then when he went to the belt, there was a little bit more sinisterness to the chords underneath them. I'm kind of interested in the sheet music for that specific part, so I can see what chords are going on, because the atmosphere changes. But for this time period that I think this is in, I kind of associate everything with power chords. So it's not so much that the chords are being interesting, so much as what is being sung and the melodic note relationships in the vocal part against the power chords. So the melodic line is actually changing the chord properties. Well, let me say the atmospheric properties based on the relationship between the chords that are being played and the vocals that are being sung, or the melodic line over it, which happens to be the vocals in this case. Um, but yeah, now that I'm thinking about it, I'd wager that they would just be power chords. But still, I wouldn't mind seeing that. I highly doubt there's any sheet music out there for a song that, as I said, I believe this is from the late 80s, early 90s, so I kind of doubt that they wrote it on sheet music. It's more of they just played it and memorized it kind of thing that a lot of bands do. Or possibly, well, nope, no, I'd say that. They just played it and then memorized it. I was gonna say, or they did it in something guitar-based tablature, but um, yeah, I don't know how prominent tabs were. We didn't really have programs like Guitar Pro at the time, being that it was so long ago, and I don't know if people did tablature by hand on paper. I don't know if that was a thing. to me, tabs. I'm gonna stop saying that because my tongue's not working anymore. Tabs are a product of the computer age. Um, I associate the two so heavily. Before we had the computer, we had sheet music. After the computer came out and music was done on the computer, we had tabs. Like to me, there's a clear divide there. But I actually don't know the history of tabs. For all I know, they were very prominent on paper, before the advent of computers. So yeah, I guess if you have well, I'll probably just go look that up. I was gonna say if you want to let me know about that in the comments, but God, I'm just being lazy, right? I'm not even doing my own research. If I have a question, I'm like, just tell me. No, I can look that one up myself. I can look up the history of tabs on my own. I'm not that lazy, trust me. Um, I think that about wraps this one up for me. Um, like I said, it's kind of a fairly standard-ish thrash metal song with a very unique to me punk edge to it. I enjoy the nostalgia of it. It reminds me of listening to music as a child, um, not like a super small child. However, my first concert in the womb was Motley Crue, so I guess that might say a little bit about me. Um, but yes, I enjoy the vocals. I enjoy the song on more of a casual listening style. It's not something I would necessarily go out of my way to listen to. Like I said earlier, I have nostalgia for it, but it is not my typical listening stuff. Um, I would not mind listening to the album once, but it's not something I think I would ever come back to. It would be more of just a nostalgic thing. And to kind of explore a little bit of that thrash punk combination they have going on. I'm not too big of a fan of the fantasy stuff. I think when it's done well, it is exceptional to have that storytelling, the kind of if I kind of assume this correctly, more of a conceptual edge where all the songs kind of tie together, something like Unleash the Archers, where the whole album is a story of, a fantasy element, but still a story nonetheless, told from beginning to end. Um, it's not typically my cup of tea, but any story told well is good regardless of the setting. So, like I said, I wouldn't mind listening to the album once. I really enjoyed this master. I have no idea how the original sounded, but judging how. No, I'm not even going to say that. I don't know how the original sounded, but this was really good. All the elements were very crisp, clean. Even the bass had a bit of prominence to it. And I find that when I listen to older music, the bass doesn't always shine through. And I don't know if that was just. Uh, how music was made or let me say, how music was mixed. Because when you listen to music from before the 2000s versus to after the 2000s, bass really got popular after the 2000s. We see a lot more bass in our mixes now than we used to. So I would say there's a good chance that the bass wasn't so prominent in the original mix. That's just a guess though. I could be wrong, but I'm really happy to hear the bass in an older song. And I just realized that I kind of made 20 minutes of conversation based on a hypothesis that this is an older track. For all I know, this actually came out in like 2000, and this was just like a band that loved the old style and wanted to bring it back. Oh man, whatever though. Whatever. It's all good. I still enjoyed the music, and they brought some really cool things to the table. Oh, I said the bass was springy. All right. Does anybody else? There's a few sections where the bass is just very prominent and it has a springy sound to it. Just super. I don't know. It's not like there's a boing. It's not like there's that actual springy sound to it, but it doesn't have the thump that I think of when you have like finger picking bass, modern mixes. That doom 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 doom. It's kind of like a dull thud, right? You get the duh sound and you get that M sound at the end, and you get the doom 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 doom. It doesn't have that like I don't know that hollow thud sound that I kind of associate with modern bass sounds. It's kind of springy. I don't know. I don't know any other way to kind of describe that. If if you don't hear it, I guess that's fine. If you do hear it, then I'm sure you know exactly what I'm talking about. Um, yeah, that was just very interesting, though. I really picked it up there. Um, the last heavy section, I think, before we went halftime to finish out the song. I think that's when I really started to hear the springiness of it. I don't know. Very interesting pick, though. Like I said, it's just the whole punk thrash thing is very interesting to me. And of course, like I said, just tons of nostalgia for me. All of the elements are nostalgic. The tremolo picking, the vocal belting, the solo work, the harmonies. It's just, yeah, not up my alley, but definitely in my nostalgia. All right, that one wraps this one up for me. I let you know my opinion on Blind Guardian Somewhere Far Beyond. This is where you come in. Hit me up in the comments. Let me know what you thought of this. And I suppose, if you want, let me know if I should check out the original. Like I said, I really enjoyed this mix. Everything was very clean and distinct, but maybe, maybe that's not what a lot of people appreciate. Maybe there's some things that were lost in translation, elements that were present in the original that are kind of muted here that maybe I missed. If there's anything better, let me know about that one. All right, there's a description box above the comments if you'd like to check out some links adjacent to the channel, such as the Patreon, which is where you can join the Discord community and vote on future themes and bands. It's only $1 a month for those two benefits. Not a bad deal if I say so myself. There's also a link to blocked videos if you're interested in that, as well as a link to my Twitter, where I kind of post some stuff adjacent to what we're checking out on the channel itself, as well as anything I find that I like to introduce that maybe I don't have time to create a full video on, or maybe it's not worth doing a full video on. I still want to show the communities cool music or videos that I find. Yeah, all those links are in the description box. There's also a subscribe, a like, and a bell button. You don't have to do them. I'm not gonna tell you to go smash that like button, but if you want notifications, if you enjoy what I'm doing, those are the ways to do it and support the channel. YouTube's algorithm is heartless. It really relies on stuff like that, so it helps out the channel a lot. And like I said, it can help out you if you're looking to get notifications. Alright, I'll be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 p.m. UTC, starting with this week's random selections from the Random Rumble. And hopefully you'll stick around for that. If not, that's cool as well. Y'all stay safe out there, keep being awesome, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening whenever you choose to watch my videos.